3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it. Oh, good evening, everybody. Come along to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan, and tonight I've got an absolutely amazing guest. But before we get on to him, let's just tell me how your day's been. What you've been up to today? The clocks went forward at the weekend, so we're now heading towards summertime, and people tend to be happier in the summertime. Some of it's down to just purely sunshine and how it makes us feel good, but also literally vitamin D from the sunshine. It produces happy chemicals around our body. So that's always very, very good. I've had a fantastic day today. I did a talk this morning, and then I got home at lunchtime, went out in my garden, made a bonfire. Although if anyone from the fire department is listening, I lit some candles. That's all I can say. But no, it's great being outdoors, doing chopping and snipping away at my garden with my big sucker tools. I love it. I'll cut anything down. Bring it to me and I'll cut it. I don't like using a saw though. So yeah, what you've been doing, do let us know that you're there. Do let us know that you're listening. Let me know how your day has been. It's Monday, and as you know, on Mondays I always get a great performer from the comedy circuit. Very often someone who isn't well known, but the way the comedy circuit works, doesn't matter how good you are. It's if you've been on the telly, you're better. But we all know that's not the case. There are a lot of guys out there who have been consistently working at a high standard for a number of years without any television recognition. And tonight's guest is very much one of those. I've known him for a while now. He's just fascinating, really interesting bloke, a good guy, got a brilliant backstory. And I hope that you're going to enjoy listening to him. And I hope that you're going to enjoy everything he's got to say. If you are out there listening, then do remember to leave us a little thought in the comments box so that we know that you're there. Otherwise, I mean, I'm quite happy to just talk to him. But it'd be nice to know there's people out there listening tonight on Facebook Live, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, themensradiostation.com, womensradiostation.com, or if you're listening in the depots on the SoundCloud app, that'd be good as well. But yeah, let's just get to it. Tonight's guest, amazing bloke, Stephen Owen. He's been on the comedy circuit over 30 years. Great impressionist, very, very funny man, but also really great story, as I'm sure he will tell us as we speak to him as the hour progresses. So with that in mind, should we just say hello and get him on? How you doing, mate?
Hi, Johnny. I'm good. How are you?
Well, first thing I've got to say, my background, Japanese laundry, right? Your background, you've got Union Jack cushions and a poster of... I thought it was Happy Mondays at first.
No. It's two of my best mates I played a lot of rugby with. So that was taken in Le Touquet probably about 6 or 7 years ago now.
Why Le Touquet?
We go there every year, and we call ourselves the Docksiders. I'm not quite sure where the Docksiders kind of thing comes from, but we go there every year just to be together and have a few beers. Well, used to have a few beers. I don't drink anymore, but I'll talk about that later. But yeah, just you know, because we stopped playing, we just thought we'd socialise as a group of fellas every sort of Christmas time. Nice to do a little bit of shopping and you know, hang about in Le Touquet for a couple of days. So that's one of those great memories that we had from there.
To be honest, I've always felt that a lot of rugby has got more to do with the socialising rather than actually throwing an odd-shaped ball around in the cold.
Yeah, there's a lot of my mates would say that my standard of rugby was a lot about the socialising, mate. Definitely. I mean, it was just a brilliant. I mean, I started playing when I was about 17. I ended up joining the police to play rugby, really, and just carried on until I was 47. And the camaraderie, the teamwork, the socialising, the experiences. I've been all over the world playing it, and I've had good fun with it, mate.
See what I love, right? This show every week throws up a gem, right? I start with a kind of a framework of questions. I normally do a bit of research about my guest, and then obviously I know my guests, so I kind of have a feel. And then someone goes, "I joined the police because I wanted to play rugby." Yeah, that's a really interesting kind of. I wanted to make the world a safer place for old ladies. Nah.
Yeah, no, it was obviously to make a difference as well. I mean, back in, it is a bizarre backstory. So I had a situation where I got into comedy at about the age of sort of 15, 16, started doing the talent shows back in the old social clubs and things like that. Had a little bit of success. Got myself an agent, a lady called Dawn Jacoby, who I think became Dawn Judd in the end. Sadly, no longer with us, I understand. DJ Entertainments over in Greenford. And Dawn put me into environments as sort of 16, 17 that I could only imagine that I'd be in. 1985, April 85, I made my professional debut as a comedy, up and coming comedy impressionist. I was 17 then. Did it for about I did a year or so at that. And lots like social clubs, working men's clubs, that sort of stuff. Very, smoke-filled rooms. And I was really a kid. I was doing A-levels at college at the time, and I just got to the stage where I think sort of about March, April '86, Dawn offered us a contract with Warner's Holidays up in Great Yarmouth. And that's when my dad, who sadly no longer with us anymore, but a great mentor, said, "No, get a proper job. You're not doing that. Finish your A-levels, finish your studies off," because they wanted me slightly early and it would have interfered with the studying, I think. So I started to look at other options, and I left college, got a job with Express Dairy over in Ruislip. And
Express Dairy, hang on.
Yeah, if you remember,
you are just dropping these A-bombs.
I know.
Join the police to play rugby.
I know.
Let's go back first of all. Where are you in the family? Brothers, sisters? Have you got?
I've got one brother.
Older or younger?
Younger than me. Yeah, 3 years younger than me.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you feel protective as the big brother growing up?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, I think definitely. We played rugby together, so that was probably. From my dad's perspective, that's where they saw the protectiveness, I suppose. But yeah, I look out for him. He's a teacher. He's a good man. We get on well. We're close. So, it works well.
That's nice. Just a quick shout out. We're got a couple of people already up there. Danny Graham, one of the greatest singers on the planet, which gets Steve Medler onto her. Actually, should be a really good, good asset for him to have. Also with Stephen. Now, my mate Stephen Rice, let me tell you, he pops along. He's my go-to man. When people say, "Yeah, but what do you do when you're not in a good place, John?" This is the guy that I go to. Yeah, my Stevie. This guy. He's a bit off the wall, but good to hear from you. Good to hear from you, Steve. Let me take it from
and topical.
Very topical.
Very topical.
Slap a fish. We'll get on to that because I want to know what the actual legal side of punching someone on stage comes down to. So you got a younger brother. You're at school. Were you academic?
I left with A-levels. I wouldn't say I got A-levels in geography and geology, mate. But I wouldn't say that I had any direction at that, that young age. I mean, they were sold to me as easy ones to do, so I did them. And because most of the time I was larking around. I was doing voices of the teachers, doing in the plays, doing the Christmas entertainments, that sort of stuff. So the academic side, I'm not a huge book reader. I had to become one when I joined the police because there's exam after exam after exam.
Yeah, they do like to be slightly brighter, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you need more common sense than anything, and a sense of humor, to be honest. So I kind of one of the reasons I got in, I think, was that they probably just thought I was a bizarre character because I mean, I boarded in October 1986, and I sat there at Paddington Green on a little stool, and you had the first day was all the physical training stuff and all that sort of stuff. So I'd got myself very fit, and I, you know, did all the exercise, all that sort of stuff. And then I boarded, like, they sat in front of the interview panel on the next day, and they looked at my application form and they went down it and they went, cabaret artist. What do you mean by cabaret artist? Because back then, you know, if you remember in the 80s, you know, we were class, you know, impressionists were variety acts, really. You know, sometimes you started with a song, you finished with a song. It was all like that side of things. And I said, yeah, I do. You know, they said, what do you do? You know, and I said, I do impressions of people. And one of they were two senior police officers, and one of them said, go on then, who do you do? So on my police board, I ended up doing Frank Spencer and Dame Edna. You know, and it was bizarre. And they said, yeah, that was all right, you know. And then I talked about the rugby and all.
Hang on. They've gone from being a police interview panel to being X Factor judging. Yeah, that was all right.
Yeah,
What else do you do?
It was, and you know what? I tell you what, mate, because it got me out of a tight spot. Because they said to me, they said, what do you see yourself doing in the police? And I said, look, one of the reasons I'm interested is because of the variety. I said, I just got to get in first, and then once I'm in, I want to see what I can do and all this sort of stuff. And he said, what wouldn't you do in the police? And I said, oh, I don't want to be a traffic policeman. I said, all them motorists in your face and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And they straight away, they came back and they went, what, you mean you can't handle pressure? So then I said, hold on a minute. I said, I stand on a stage on my own. I said, in front of, you know, that time I was doing like colleges, sixth form colleges and that. So there's 400 or 500 people in the audience. I said, I stand there on my own and I try and make them laugh and make them go home feeling happy. I said, and that's pressure. I said, so, you know, I'm not sure what you're getting at, you know, and that's how the interview sort of went. And, you know, in that sort of situation, you don't know whether you've passed or failed until, you know, they take you outside, you wait for 2 hours. And then a lady came up to me with a little blue book, which was like, you know, you're starting in the Met Police book. And she went, congratulations, you're in.
Wow.
And so,
why the police? Where did that come from?
I don't know. I had an uncle in it. My Uncle Jeff was in it. I think I didn't want to sit in an office. That was a big thing. I didn't want to sit in an office. I love people. I like talking to people. I like meeting people. I like the communication side of it. And I thought I could genuinely go in there and make a bit of a difference. And it was the variety, John. It was the variety inside the job, because I thought, do you know what? I fancy being a dog handler. You know, what I went into in the end, you know, the homicide investigation wasn't really on my radar in you know, when I joined in 87. And this is funny as well, because I was supposed to start in December 86. But I was in a pantomime for Express Dairy. I was in Aladdin. So I had to write to him, because there are no mobile phones. I had to write to him and say, look, I'm sorry, I don't want to let the people down that I work with. I'm in a pantomime. I'm in Aladdin. I need to join in January. So they let me join in January in the end.
You just have to get panto out of the way.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you wanted to fight crime, save lives, make the world a safer place, but not until you had, like, dressed up as Widow Twanky or whatever. What was the panto?
It was Aladdin. I was actually the cabaret act in Widow Twanky's nightclub.
There you go.
There you go.
You just had to get it out your system.
Yeah, they just said, look, you know, because I was like a sort of temp, so I'd started, and they'd already started rehearsing the pantomime, and then they discovered I did a leaving speech for somebody and did a few impressions, and they went, blimey, we need you in the pantomime, but there was no part for me, so they wrote a part for me to get in Widow Twanky's nightclub as the variety act.
So already fraud playing a big part of your early police career there, mate.
I don't do fraud, mate. I don't do fraud. Only homicide. Only homicide. I don't do traffic. I don't do homicide. You know, so yeah. No, I do. You know, I specialised fairly. I wanted to go in the CID, so I went on to a crime squad.
Did you start in uniform on the beat?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I went through 20 weeks at Hendon.
Okay.
I started. I got posted to Wembley. which was great for me, because there was absolutely a bit of everything at Wembley at that point. And then after 2 years, the pathway into like the crime squad then was to do what they called a home beat. So like a permanent beat officer, really. And I worked on the Chalkhill estate in Wembley.
Okay, nice.
And all the locals up there, they gave me a street name. My street name was Rugby, and I fitted in with that community as best I could. Got to know lots and lots of people on the estate. We policed it fairly. We policed it firmly. You know, I think we worked it so that actually it got to the stage where the locals would much rather be nicked by me than say somebody else from the police station.
Well, because was that because you were so entertaining in the car or the way it
I don't know about that. I mean, I've done some funny things in the police. You know, we've done you know, I've done interviews with Joe Pasquale and stuff like that, you know, and we've had some good banter with it, giving out parking tickets as Tommy Cooper and stuff like that. But, you know, it's, you know, you need a sense of humor, don't you? So I used it at every appropriate use of humor. That's what we used to call it. Certainly in the notes when I wrote up the notes.
Appropriate. The police love those words, don't they? Appropriate and proportionate.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I did a search one day, and this guy who we'd arrested, he had a big long gold chain, and I put that round my neck just to lighten the atmosphere a bit, and I did Mr. T impressions, you know. I put it round and I went, "What you looking at, fool?" You know, and all this sort of stuff. And it was just a bit of banter. I didn't realise that I'd be answering questions in the witness box at
mate,
6 months later. Officer, I put it to you that you were the officer that put that gold chain around your neck and did Mr. T impressions. Is that correct? So, you know, that was slightly awkward. But yeah, so yeah.
A really good moment here for Dave Sleet to join the conversation. Dave Sleet runs a psychological accreditation company. Be interested to see what Dave's take on a policeman who does impressions would be. Dave, over to you, mate, when you're ready. It just fascinates me that we've got this view of the police, haven't we? And you're the enemy, right? Now, my kids are white middle-class kids from a nice area, right?
Yeah.
They have no reason whatsoever to even ever come into contact with the police.
Yeah.
And yet they have this kind of almost inherent distrust or dislike. They've not got it from me or their mum. So they can only have got it from school and workplace. I never ever understand why anyone joins the police. I think it's a fantastic thing to do, but it's like you wake up one morning and go, you know what? I want to be hated and stared at for trying to help people. Yeah,
I think again, I had a lovely career, John. You know, I really had. I'm very proud of what we achieved when I was in it. You know, there were some very difficult moments, some very challenging moments. You know, I was always one of those people that walked towards danger and the problem to try and sort it out. But I try to sort it out for all the stakeholders in that sort of particular issue. And it didn't really, again, you know, if you're fair and you communicate on a level with people, you know, you have to have the ability to react quickly because, you know, like you say, not everybody is going to start engaging and laughing and joking with you. So, you know, for your own safety, you've got to be very sharp and react to kind of, you know, where the situation's kind of potentially going. But it always, you know, all the interaction I had, the communication was key. Explaining what you're doing is absolutely key. You know, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this search? Why am I telling you this? Why am I arresting you? You know, people cope by knowing. So the more information you can give members of the public, you know, again, some members of the public got better listening skills than others, but, you know, the amount of times I actually explained why things were happening, you know, it made a bit of a difference. And I think, again, that, I mean, it's, you know, I think it's a very, society is very different now from when I joined. And I think the youngsters coming up are, you know, very, very different in terms of attitude and things like that. I mean, there's good and bad in everything. But I think there's a lot to be said by just going back, you know, and working with simple values. And if you know, you work for an organization that serves the public, you've got to get out there and talk to them. You know, you can't, you know, and you never judge a book by its cover. You know, I took people on face value all the time. And I've worked with families that, you know, I was a family liaison officer on the homicide teams. We're specially trained. But actually, it's just, you know, very common sense, listening skills, empathy, this sort of stuff. You walk into a family whose loved one's just been killed, and they hate the police.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll be working with them. We'll be working with them for the next 18 months, 2 years. You know, it's about building up a relationship with that family, trust, confidence, working with them. You know, they test you out, we test them out. The openness and transparency, huge. And that's where the police have caused problems, you know, in the past, where they haven't been particularly open and transparent.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that, you know, there's always that.
Sleep straight on it. He's talking about the appropriate use of humor to diffuse tension is a great tool. Laughter
Exactly.
can be great medicine. And it is interesting, isn't it? Like, you've already made the parallel there. You're on the beat, you're on stage. You've got to somehow win over the trust of the people that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But it always seems strange to me that, because when I was growing up, the estate I grew up on, you know, it's full of wrong-uns. There's no other way to describe it. You know, most of my friends went through the criminal justice system. I think the reason I didn't was, well, luck had something to do with it. I'm not going to lie, without incriminating myself. However, my mum, her thing was the devil makes work for idle hands. So if you had spare time on your hands, she'd make you go over to the convent and wash dishes for the nuns or go and help out the church. But the second thing that really made a difference for me was a young police officer when I was about 13. He was a cadet, and then they had to do a certain amount of voluntary work, youth work. And he used to take us to watch football, and he used to take us out for days, and he took an interest in us. However, he was very clear that you get into trouble, you're not part of this no more. So your choice was to get up to mischief and miss out on free tickets for Arsenal Spurs on the Saturday. So I'm very much a big supporter of the idea of police officers and intervention rather than just sort of solving crime.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most, you know, from my experience, the most precious thing we could give people was time. You know, it was time, and whatever crime somebody has suffered, you know, and I thought that was, you know, as years went on, you know, things like burglary became less of a priority for the police to investigate. But actually, you know, for me and you and all the other people listening, you know, if somebody burgled our house, you know, that's kind of devastating. Times that by 1,000 if you're an 80-year-old and your life savings are gone and stuff like that. So, you know, again, spending time with people, listening to people is really, really important. And the number of kids I've kind of dealt with through the criminal justice system that actually view young offenders as actually they'll get more of a regular lifestyle in there, which is, you know, that's extremely sad to listen to, mate. And you know, it is a marker that, you know, modern day society, I'm afraid. And
I did a project in a young offenders institute at Glenparva in Leicestershire, and they'll always stay with me, these 3 kids who were like, yeah, but you're just like a fat old bloke, innit? Like, I can make more money than you. I made 20 grand. That's what they locked me up for. I'm like, how long did you get? Well, just under 3-year sentence. And I was like, well, you're making less than 7 grand a year. You get more than that at McDonald's. And you could go to pictures. And there was just this whole kind of other world, though, this underclass world, which is where I came from. I just used to not want to be part of it. And it's just so difficult. Like I say, without the influence of, I'm not religious, but church and authority, I think the structures that we need, and you guys now, I think, are just there to solve social issues rather than crime, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I was in the police, I'm retired now, obviously, but when I was in the police, you know, we'd get involved in various community projects. You know, I've played rugby with kids, we played football against them. You know, we've been into colleges to educate them around the joint enterprise concept, and you know, actually, that you're in danger of being on the periphery of serious incidents and still being caught in that sort of investigation net and things like that. So education is crucial. And I think also trying to create options as different outlets for some of the kids as well is very important. And again, you know, people look to the police to be all these things. We're not all things to all people. We never were all things to all people, but it was about trying to identify options for these kids. And you know, the bottom line is, you know, a lot of them would have to just pick up that mantle. But sport, I mean, sport was certainly a great, you know, great at that sort of thing. It gave the kids a real outlet. And you know, I've been involved with projects since, you know, a mate of mine's involved with the School of Hard Knocks, and you know, they identified cooking, you know, all, you know, sitting around making stuff, cooking stuff, you know, playing a bit of sport, you know, just chatting, chewing the fat over with each other, and just having a laugh was kind of people start to refocus a little bit. But you're always going to get people that are coming in from the side going, look how quickly you can make 100 quid over here and 150 quid. So the temptation is constant.
Okay, quick mention to Robert Van Buren. He's out in Mallorca. He's a counsellor. I think, are you a counsellor, Robert? Let me know, man. I can't even remember. But also Dave Sleet, who's clearly read Dave, you've read a dictionary again, mate. Dave comes up with these profound statements every week. The switch from public service to law enforcement removed empathy for the life experience of the public and made the focus civil management. That sounds like an essay, Dave. I'm not going to lie. Maybe next week, I'm going to not do chatting to comedians. I'm going to do philosophers and essayists. But do you what's that statement say to you there, Steve? Do you think that it's about law enforcement rather than public service? And I'm not asking you to represent or speak for the police, mate, but you know, but you're going to.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it as public service, but I needed experts on my shoulder, you know, because when you're again working with the family liaison stuff, you know, families, you go into families, they can be complex sort of units, and you're, you know, I didn't have the adequate skills. You know, I'm not a counsellor. I was a homicide detective. My job is to get justice for that family. But I would encounter various people in my job that I would be able to bring in and introduce into that family to provide that expertise and support. And that you know, that would allow the family a different outlet. And again, you know, some people apply timescales on it and this sort of stuff. You know, when you work in the areas of bereavement, there are no timescales, but it's about having the right people on your shoulder. And I think that's where, you know, I worked a lot with social services, a lot with, you know, the NHS and, you know, air ambulance, all these people. And we would share that expertise wherever possible. And that's, you know, that combination is quite powerful. Unfortunately, a lot of the environments I worked in, you know, they people would still look towards the police to take the lead. But you know, that is sometimes it's not a bad thing to move out of your comfort zone. But we've got to.
Do you not think though that? And again, I'm not asking you to defend the police, right?
No, I'm not. No.
Do you not think that sometimes we just look to them to solve all the problems that we've created? So if one of my boys was to go out mugging, well, I'd take him down. I'd hand him in. I'd batter him. Yeah. And I would take ownership and responsibility that I've created this monster. But it just almost seems like people have this kind of, well, the police, you're going to fix families and fix society.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, again, it's basic values. You know, you see, I think society's put pressure on people to, you know, get out there, work jobs, earn money. You know, are we spending less time with our children? This sort of stuff. You know, I'm conscious of it with my own son. You know, I work very hard in the police, but now I'm doing the comedy and a few other bits and pieces. Actually, when do I get, you know, kind of good time with the family? And it's really important to identify that. I think, you know, sometimes you have to take a good look and really work out what the priorities are.
Well, do you think there's more pressure on your boy to be good because of his dad? Do you think? Like at school, would they expect higher standards from him?
No, definitely not. No, definitely not. No,
there's your answer.
No, I mean if there was a GCSE in FIFA, he'd be up for it.
He'd be there.
Yeah, he'd be up for it. No, I don't think he feels well. He certainly never came. I mean, I've involved in him in lots of my life, right from the time he was a baby, really. You know, he's been at the rugby club. He does the sound at the gigs for me. You know, from about the age of 12, he's been doing that, and so he's got to know, You know, he's got a lovely relationship with some of the comedians we know. You know, he's grown into that role. He takes a responsibility. So I've tried to kind of spend a lot of time with him. But all I've done, John, is do kind of what my dad did with me. You know, my dad was how he managed to get Wednesday afternoons off work to come and watch us play sport was unbelievable. But he was there. You know, he never said anything to anybody. He just used to appear from the trees in his bright red trainers, watch the rugby game, and go. You know, he didn't drink.
What did he do?
Sorry?
What was his job?
He worked for Abbey National. He's into finances. So computers and finances, really. And then he finished up management development. So, you know, but he had an opportunity. You know, he used to, you know, since he died, you know, we've spoken to, you know, I've spoken to his work colleagues that knew him well. And he you know, unbeknown to me, he boxed and coxed his diary around me and my brother playing sport all the time. You know,
good,
which is
good
know,
positive male influence there. Dave Sleet's got an essay question coming. I can feel it, Dave. If I can just at this point, just to anyone who's just tuning in, listening on mensradiostation.com, womensradiostation.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, or on the SoundCloud podcast, or on Deluxe Radio. I'm joined by Stephen Owen, a very, very funny man, ex-homicide detective, but just a good bloke. I'll tell you, you're a good bloke. Just want to give a quick mention to our sponsors, the WJ Group, who are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. Basically, this company, they do the white line standard motorways and down roads and road maintenance, but they're really committed to raising awareness of men's mental well-being, not just in the workplace. But so I've been working for years. They're a really good bunch of blokes. So if anyone's listening in one of their depots now on a Monday morning at 7 a.m., you need to get out, lads. Get on the road. So let's come back to you, though, Steve. I'm fascinated by how you then balance the credibility of being a homicide detective and then going on stage. Because I'll come along and watch you at a gig, and you are hilariously funny. But then I'm like, that's the bloke who's meant to be solving my daughter's murder. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, when I was in the job, you know, you had to keep. I kept him very, very separate. I mean, when I joined the police, I didn't do much comedy at all. And it was only when I got divorced in about 97, I had a bit of time on my hands. I picked up the stage and television. I entered 2 or 3 big contests in the Midlands at the Land Rover Social Club and I think Austin Rover Social Club. And then I had a bit of success in those. There weren't many comedians in them, really. In fact, there were hardly any comedians in them. They were all singers and dancers and that sort of stuff. Got to didn't get the final of the Austin Metro. Got to the final of the Land Rover one. And then I did a gig in the Albany Tavern in Bexley Heath. And one of the judges was Gary Bushell, the Sun critic. If you remember Gary Bushell, who ironically I've taught his son in the police now. And I got a gig with Shiwaddy.
Oh, mate.
They offered me through that contest. I got offered a wedding with, they said, oh, Shiwaddy are doing corporates. And would you do the comedy? So, and it was at the Greenwich Maritime Museum in a big marquee thing. So I said, yeah, of course I would. So I had to go back. That was on the Saturday night. I went back to work on the Monday and went straight into the DCI's office. And I said, look, you know, this comedy thing. And he sort of, you know, eyes rolled and he went, yeah, what's up? I said, I don't know what to do. I said, I've done a few contests. I've had a bit of success. I said, but I've got a gig now with Shiwaddy. And he went, what? And I had to declare it as a business interest with the police. I put this report together, and I said, look, you know, I did it before I joined. Look at my essay. You have to write an essay before you join about your life and everything. I said, you know, I raise money for charity because that's how I was used quite a lot in the police was to raise. I raised thousands for charity, MCing gigs and bits and pieces. And I said, look, I've got this gig. I'm being paid for it. I'm on with Shiwaddy. And it went up to the commissioner and then it came back down and it said, yeah, we think this is compatible. You know, there's not a conflict of interest here. You are the Metropolitan Police's only comedy impressionist. And so obviously it comes with strict rules. I can't take the mickey out of the police, take the mickey out of commission, all this sort of stuff. But as long as it didn't clash with what I was doing, and I kept it very separate. So I didn't go out there and go, "Hi, everybody, I'm a homicide detective" or anything like that. I went out and did my thing. And that's it. They kind of, that was it. It was all authorized, and because it has to be, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, mate.
And then, so how did Homicide come about? What made you go down that sort? Because comics, we fear death, and yet you've gone actually looking for it, haven't you?
Yeah, I've gone looking for it. I've been near to it. I've done all sorts of things around death. I got involved in my first homicide in about 1993. And this was back in the days when I was working on the crime squad, and they used the crime squad as the inquiry team. So it was a death of a murder of an Italian widow in Wembley Park. And ironically, I knew the suspect, actually.
Was it the neighbour? Because he looks a bit shit. Was it the neighbour, the kind of slightly weird bloke who lived about 3
No,
years
it wasn't, mate. No, he did live. He lived quite near. He was only about 5 minutes away.
Mate, I'm on it. I could join. Am I too old to join?
Definition of a neighbour. But yeah, it was a fascinating job. And then I expressed an interest, because it wasn't really, you brought police officers from all different police stations to come together to, that classic former squad sort of thing. And I went up to, in about 95, I think I went up to Albany Street to work on 2 murders in Camden, one in Camden, one in Kentish Town. And then 97, they'd formed like this specialist command. So I applied, boarded, and got on that, and it went from there, really. And I did 8 years, 8 or 9 years on the homicide teams then. Then they said, come off, teach family liaison. So I teach homicide family liaison to young detectives.
What's family liaison? What's that then?
So family liaison is it's a specialist core role in a murder investigation where you are the conduit between the family and the senior investigating officer and the investigation, essentially. So I would bring information to the family and then extract information from the family back into the investigation. So it's very much an investigative role. I think in years gone by, it was people used to think that we were just the nice police, we just keep the family sweet and all this sort of stuff. But it, because you tend to get murdered by somebody that you either know or you've had recent association with, there is huge value in a working relationship with a family. And if you look at, you go, the death of Stephen Lawrence is a classic example where they didn't get the family liaison particularly right at the outset. There were problems with the openness and transparency. So the McPherson report highlighted that we needed specially trained, dedicated family liaison officers, and we need to treat families as stakeholders in investigations. So that's where the role comes from. It's kind of always existed, but it's now actually a specialist core role. And I did that. I was fascinated in people, and to try and help a bereaved family get justice. I did a lot of the interviewing of the suspects. I did a lot of the exhibit side of things as well. So I kind of wore various hats on the team, really.
And that just fascinates me, though, that you can go, because like you're a big bloke, right? You got some girth. You got some. I'm not saying you're fat, but you know what I mean. You can handle yourself, and yet there's a gentleness about you. There's a real kindness that comes through. I can't help. And then you do the comedy, and I don't know how you then I'd find someone's daughter, I'd be crying my eyes out, and then if I caught the bloke who did it, I'd just batter them to death with an ice pick.
Yeah. And I think for me, comedy's always been a fabulous coping strategy. It's been one of the best things I've ever done. And when I fell seriously ill December 2020, and I was lying in intensive care there, not knowing whether I'd live or die because I had this severe acute pancreatitis, and it was kind of, the one thing I missed was coming out and making people laugh. We had a lot of banter with the nurses and the doctors, but I didn't know at that point whether I'd ever do it again and stuff like that. And I think over the years, where you're able to channel your energy, and rugby played a big part in that as well. So I always fought my wars for an hour and a half on a Saturday afternoon. And actually, when you come in the clubhouse, you have a beer with the guys, you have a beer with the opposition, you've kind of, all your aggression, your energy's gone out in that hour and a half. And it's the same with the comedy. You know, that's a great release.
So
It's
you're
completely
compartmentalising, aren't you? You're just putting it all to
yeah.
bracket. Dave Sleet, here he goes, bang, with another dark question. Big. How much did dark comedy help cope with the police or policing during the dark times?
Yeah, I think it plays a part. Again, I think it's heavily criticised these days. You know that the canteen culture was frowned upon. Ironically, I think they're trying to, you know, from the mental health well-being side, I think they're trying to put canteens back in police stations because they took them all out for ages. But I think actually they've recognised that officers need to actually have just half an hour, 45 minutes to just process what they might have done an hour before. You know, because I you know, very early on in my service, you know, the IRA blew up a careers van outside the careers office in Army careers office in Wembley, and I was second on scene at that. And
wow,
you know, you had to kind of come back and just kind of, you know, think about what you'd just seen. You know, it was, and talking to colleagues, the peer support side of it is very, very important. And again, if you can't do that in Greg's, you can't do that in Pret a Manger because of the members of the public.
Yeah, but see, something like that. What was that? That was like 1990. Not wanting to incriminate, not wanting to make myself a suspect. But 1990, minibus got blown up. Was it one or two soldiers got killed?
One, I think.
One, yeah.
One seriously injured.
And then you've got to turn up and deal with the aftermath of it.
Yeah, I mean, we were. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was on the Chalkhill estate with my home beat partner, and we heard the bang. You know, we heard the bang from the Chalkhill, and that's, you know, a few miles away, and it went over the radio. Large explosion sort of sound in the high road, and we flew. Ironically, and the reason why I remember it is I'd picked up a stray dog. I had a dog in the back of the car, little. Can't remember what type of dog, a little collie sort of dog, and we picked this dog up. And we were going to bring it back to the police station and put it in a kennel, feed it, and try and find the owner. And then this explosion went off, and raced towards the scene. It was just it was Lancelot Road was on the. I think that was where the alleyway that we could access it. And of course, one of the other home beats was very close. We got there second, started walking towards it, could see the van on fire and everything, and then across the radio, secondary device. So we had to come back and pull out. And that when you know that people are injured, that's a really difficult thing to do. You know, that is a really, really difficult thing to do. But you've got to think, well, right, okay, this is a real, you know, we've had one go off. There's a real threat now. So we weren't able to get there, you know, right into the people that needed us as quickly as we would like to. And you know, it all unfolded. We dealt with the incident, and then I went back to the Panda. Of course, because of the way I've driven to the incident.
I'll just point out, because you've got young people listening, mate. They don't know why you've got a Panda out on patrol with you.
Sorry, that's what we used to call the little car.
The little car wasn't actually a Panda. Like that's not why pandas are endangered species.
I think it was like an Austin Metro. It was Austin Metro. I look ridiculous driving them because it's like I'm too big.
Big bloke.
Yeah, I'm too big for the car. And we went back to the car, and this little dog, bless it, we'd left it, you know, for like 2 hours or so. All the windows were open and everything, but it'd been sick because of the journey back from the Chalkhill. We'd been that quick, so I spent the rest of the shift cleaning up the car and looking after the dog until the owner collected it. So it was a happy ending there. Terrible incident in the high road, and you know, again, it's you know, when Dave's talking about the humor, I'm not sure some of the incidents I've worked in, it's very difficult to find the humor, to be honest. It might be the humor's more about how other colleagues reacted, and it would be aimed at other police officers.
Yeah, it's that coping thing. So then, again, just to recap, just anyone joining me there, with Stephen Owen, brilliant stand-up comic, but also ex-homicide detective and dog kidnapper, from what we've just learned. So how did you cope then? Hang on, like you're straight away defending yourself, aren't you? I didn't kidnap it; it came willingly.
I'm saving it.
So there you go. When your own health took a downturn, mate, how did that hit you?
Huge.
Yeah. Huge. What did you have symptoms? Can you tell us about it? What you
had?
I
I got diagnosed. I go and see the doctors fairly regularly. I got a thing called Barrett's esophagus, which is where the lining of the esophagus is like a precancerous condition. So because of the mimicry, and I coach kids at rugby, I shout a lot. I get it checked out once a year. Try and get it checked out once a year, and so far, touch wood, it's the chances of it going nasty are relatively rare, but it does. And if you don't catch it early, it's a problem. So I get it checked out, and then about September 2020, doctor said, "Have you been checked for gallstones?" No, never. So I get the ultrasound for the gallstones. I've got 2 gallstones. The guy said to me, they said, "Look, they're pretty big. If they go on the roll, they'll be all right. They might roll over the ducts and all that sort of stuff." So me being me, went, "Okay, well, we'll get to them when we can get to them." And then about December the 13th, I was due to coach the kids at rugby on a Sunday. I woke up at about 4 o'clock in the morning, felt like I was being driven over, and I was in excruciating pain, like pain I'd never experienced before, John. I bust a lot of my body playing rugby, but never experienced pain like this before. And my wife, bless her, she said, "Shall I get you a hot water bottle to put on it?" And I went, no, call an ambulance. Just get me 999. This is a problem. And the ambulance came, and I got rushed into Watford General. I was on a ward for about 2 hours, being monitored. Somebody said, "Look, it looks like there's a gallstone blocking your bile duct. You're going downhill. You're coming to intensive care." And what happened was one of the stones had cut off the supply to my pancreas. So my pancreas destroyed itself effectively, exploded inside me, and it caused sepsis, multiple organ failure. So I had kidney dialysis, I had liver failure. So I had probably 2 or 3 occasions where I was very close to death. Wow. So, but I mean, it was a surreal experience, and the support I've had has been incredible from friends, family, comedy industry, police. Everybody's just been amazing. And but at the time, it's really bizarre because you're in the zone. They said to me certain things that I will take to my grave. It is, that one of the consultants just went, "Drink, Steve, drink as much fluid as you can, drink." And I said, "Look, is there a limit on what I can drink?" And he went, "No." And I was pumping through 6 or 7 liters of fluid a day, because my mindset was, you're not going to die. You've got to fight this. You've got to fight this all the time. And if that's, I suppose my brain was saying, flush it out, flush it out. And but my family obviously were having a very different experience because I was in and out of consciousness on morphine and fentanyl. Every time a doctor spoke to me, I could take on board some of the information, but I said, "Look, please speak to my family." My wife's made lots of notes on it and all this sort of stuff. So, it was a very challenging time. Challenging time for me. But I think, again, I'm able to put that in perspective because I worked on a homicide team, and you work with people that lose their loved ones in a split second. Actually, what was happening to me, I could process reasonably well. And similar, I work a lot now with charities. I've got a lot of mates that have got disabilities, and I see the challenges they go through on a daily basis. And I actually, in intensive care, I could still use my phone. I could still talk to the nurses, talk to the doctors. So my mindset is saying life's not so bad for me. There are people worse off, and that was really strong, and I, people say to me, "Oh, you're an inspiration." No. There are guys I know that inspired me, during that time and still do really. A good mate of mine called Matt Hansen, who was injured playing rugby, set up a whole foundation. You get a text off Matt Hansen in that sort of situation, and you sit up and listen and think, yeah, you're right, mate, you're on my shoulder. And I had so many good people on my shoulder that had I died, I wouldn't have really known anything about it, and B, I would have gone knowing that I'd done my best to stay alive.
But also I think, mate, unlike most people I know, you could have gone knowing you've made a difference. And I think that's a really big thing. I think that you underestimate what you've done for people, the families you've given comfort to, and the streets that you've made safer. But we never tell you that, because, you're the police, you're scum, you're pigs. like I say, and I hate it when I'm on stage and there's like a policeman in the audience or a policewoman in the audience, and the comics rip them out, and then I'll go on and say, "Get this person a drink, because you respect us." But at 3 o'clock in the morning, when there's a burglar downstairs with a hammer and a screwdriver or a shovel, if you've got patio doors, you're not going to ring a comedian, are you?
No,
mate, I'll be a burgle. Tell me a joke. Doesn't work like that. And it's funny about how we have our priorities in this country. And then what fascinates me, though, is that then you're then gone from this kind of strong alpha male to you're in hospital, you're on that table, you're going to die, and you've got to somehow make peace with yourself, your past, your dad, your whatever deity you may believe in, and think about your future. How scary was that?
I wouldn't say it was scary. It was a kind of, I've just got to work with what I've been given. You know, what have I got left? What can I build on? What, you know, and the key thing for me was to just try and get well, you know, and they said to me, they said, look, you know, it's an 18-month, 24-month kind of recovery, protracted recovery. You're never going to be 100% again. You know, I've got diabetes as a result of it. I've got no insulin function on the pancreas. My body is processing enzymes somehow. I've got about 5% of my pancreas left. And it was about, I am different. I'm very different I think I am different from the experience. Definitely, mate. I certainly comedy wise, you know, because I didn't get back to the comedy. I came out of hospital in January. I lost 4 stone in 4 weeks. So that, you know, I was a big fella before and big fella now, but I think now I've viewed it as I've got a bit of a platform to work with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, Johnny, I would have lost 4 stone any other way, to be honest. I was trying, but I don't think I would have lost 4 stone any other way. So you look at what you've been given, you think, right, okay, I'll get my liver function back up, get my kidney function. I've had to give up booze. Fine. You know, I like to pint after a game of rugby and that sort of stuff. But it's that when somebody, you know, when a consultant says to you, if you don't drink, you'll live a lot longer. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolutely no-brainer. So I've kind of just tried to develop slowly, putting back my life as best I could. And, you know, again, that's where people have been incredible and very supportive. I mean, I did my first gig back was Mark Rand from Cheshire Comedy phoned me up.
Yeah.
And he said, mate, I've got a gig. It's outdoors. It was in May. It was in May after I came out of hospital. And he said, it's for the NHS. He said, do you fancy 10 minutes? And I went, yeah. And I look at the pictures of that gig and I look clinically vulnerable. I'm frail. I kind of very pale. And I did 10 minutes. I wrote some stuff about the pancreatitis. Yeah. And, you know, with a sort of nursing audience, it went well. And that, you know, I just sort of slowly, you know, get back to the gig in and
that's the performer though, isn't it? That's that desire to get back up there and get on with it. And people who don't perform can't understand it.
I knew that comedy was one of my biggest coping strategies. I needed it. So it to me, you know, I can't go to a pub. You know, I can go to a pub with a mate and enjoy that, but it's different. That side of it's different. You know, like, you know, Jeff Stevenson and I see a lot of each other outside in our families. You know, we go for a meal, you know, and I'm quite comfortable in that sort of social environment. But I knew that I needed the comedy as that outlet again. So that was a real, you know, there was a bit of drive and determination to get back to that, really. I mean, I had to, because my vocal cords changed as well. That was the other thing. They put a food pipe down me, and I came out with a, you know, very different kind of, you know, it was. I thought, geez, you know, a lot of the impressions are gone. So I've had to work quite hard to get them back. But it, you know, like I say, that I knew what comedy meant to me, and I knew that I needed that, and I knew that my family. You know, again, we're still working on just, you know, especially with my son, you know, my stepdaughter, she's been fantastic. She works in the pharmacy, so I get all the prescriptions, all this sort of stuff sorted. But Owen took probably, you know, between Owen and my wife, because I'm very close to my boy, and you know, so you know, it's just a slow rebuilding process.
It's interesting. So we got quite a great comment from a guy called Asa Don Brown, who he's a psychologist, and he was talking about how being a psychologist helped him to make sense of life that he'd see as a first responder. Because this is the crux of it. First responders being battered all over this planet, but we must remember that a majority of those that serve are doing it for the right reasons.
They are, yeah.
I think you are a classic example, I think, of what a good, not just a good policeman should be, but a good human being should be. You've got integrity, you've got decency, you've got morals, you've got values, you want to help other people. I can't believe this is the quickest hour I've ever done with a guest. Honestly,
I've got away without doing any impressions,
mate. I'm so relieved because I will have you here all night doing your Donald Trump. I think that you are an example, really. You may not want to hear it, but you are an inspiration because you've gone. Like, I'm a bloke who's made an active choice to help people, right? And you've done that, and you've done it with integrity. You've not apologized and gone, no, the police get a bad rep. You've gone, well, sometimes it's on us. You're a great comic. You're going to be a success at whatever you've done. I think that it seems to me that you've got supportive people around you, but you kind of seem to be in touch with yourself. And it's very rarely that I meet people like you, and you've made a big impression on me because you're just grounded, I think is what it is.
I think, yeah, thank you, mate. And that's lovely for you to say that. I mean, I think, again, I've never really had I think, personal agendas make people very difficult to deal with at times and stuff like that. I think I've always, I've concentrated on trying to do the best at whatever you can do, just to try and make a difference to somebody. And I think we try and do that with the gigs, you try and make it, people say it's all about the audience. Actually, do you know what? As a group, I see when we came together the other week in Canvey Island, it's about being in a team.
Yeah.
I don't want to let you down. You don't want to let me down. We don't want to let Tony down. Tony doesn't want to let us down. It's about a team effort. We're here. There's 3 or 4 of us on the bill. 150 people to entertain. Let's give them the best show we can. It's that. I love that kind of team mentality. That's what I thrive on. I led teams in the police, led teams outside in sport. I love that kind of teamwork ethic. And because actually being a comedian is it can be quite a solitary lifestyle, can't it? Driving around up and down the country.
Absolutely.
I do it all the time, practicing the voices on my own and stuff like that. People, until mobile phones came in, people must have thought I was a lunatic chatting to myself. But it is a team. It's about being a team all the time, I think. And I certainly try and focus on, I want people to leave the gigs I'm involved in as if, that was a bloody good night. We had a good night in the green room. We had a good night on stage.
We've been around at Steve's house. Is there a tip you can give that you think that works for you, that may help for other people?
Do you know what? I said to you before, my dad was a great influence on me, and he gave me 2 things. He said, look, because I used to be quite negative sometimes about some of the stuff that I'd encounter and some of the media, and he just said, look, mate, choose your thoughts. Choose your thoughts. And that little bit of advice stuck with me, and I've done that time and time again. And the thought I had in hospital was survive. The thought, the thought I've had in various environments is kind of do the best, right? Turn, okay, and also he just said, because he was a big thing about, he said, look, you keep sweating the small stuff all the time. Keep sweating the small stuff. He said, just do the things. Focus on the things that get you to where you want to be.
That's brilliant. That's sound advice, mate. And I think that you've clearly demonstrated that throughout your life. Let us know where you're gigging. Just put it on my Facebook page, and
I will do, bud. I
will spread it out.
I was due to have an operation on Friday, but I think it's just been cancelled. So I am available. And
okay. It's out for work now.
I think I'm gigging again April the 20th in the Albany in Great Portland Street, I think.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, I was trying to.
Well, mate, it's an absolute pleasure talking to you, and
cheers, Johnny.
I really hope to hang out with you again soon, man. Because
we'll catch up soon, mate. Yeah, love to Tash and the family, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers, bud.
Take care, mate. So that's Stephen Owen, just an amazing bloke. And anyone who listens every week will know that I could have carried on talking to him for hours. Fascinating, just interesting, insightful, funny, knowledgeable, charismatic. I think that's a real man. Call it cisborn or trans or whatever. But a man, that's what a man's all about. Honest and on the point. Look, we're here every week, as you know, on a Monday night. Do come along, keep listening to us, keep doing things that work for you, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. talking with comedians about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible.